This is called You Were an Interesting Case. 1. Going in. The day you looked death in the face and told it to fuck all the way off, a pretty counselor walked beside you through the student center. The police kindly kept their distance until you arrived at the car, where the older one helped you fasten your seatbelt across the gray plastic seat. It was so low, you barely had to scrunch down. At the hospital, a nurse took your vitals and then led you through a series of push-button doors. On opening, each one leaned awkwardly away from its partner. The nurse left you in the observation area, and after a while, the counselor left too. A new nurse came and drew your blood. Then a different one came with pizza and French fries. The dessert, of course, was unidentifiable, and your roommate laughed at it when he popped by to say hello. The food nurse wanted a urine sample. And though you'd never been arrested, the bathroom reminded you of jail. The steel toilet was smeared with shit. The handicap rails sported brown handprints. You thought it best not to complain. Like a good student, you answered every question, called your family, even emailed your study partner. Angry and rejected, death looked on. You both cried a little bit. Eventually, you were taken upstairs. 2. The Red Woman. Long before death came into the picture, she was there. The Red Woman, a pure and vivacious rage. On a long walk home last April, she slipped into your shoe like a pebble from the riverbank. Your mind slid into hers like a warm bath. She said, "Break the mirror, punch the wall," and your body obeyed. The next morning, you could only finger the bruises as you watched the coffee brew. Summer was a blur. She'd show up, sometimes empty-handed, sometimes with a bottle of cheap Pinot, and the world was only corners. Only knives and walls and mirrors, and morning after morning with dried blood and Mr. Coffee. You didn't bother with Band-Aids or explanations. In late July, you finally let her move in. Even got a new tattoo to mark the occasion. A keyhole on your ribs so she could see out. But when she invited death into your bed last night, you knew they both had to go. You didn't know she was here at the hospital until a disheveled woman in a blue nightgown wandered into your supposedly safe room at 5 a.m. Under a blanket that reeked of sour spit, greasy scalps, and piss, you pretended to be asleep. And she muttered, "Bitches. Why are all these bitches lying in these beds, just lying? I will set this whole place on fire. I'll burn every last one of these bitches up." 3. Humor. In the event you should like to make a joke, ask to borrow the red marker. Use it to carefully color in the letters on your milk carton. Try to imagine you are climbing the hills of the M, or perhaps they are sand dunes or snowdrifts. You haven't been outside in 4 days. It's meditation hour, so the television screen in the activity room is taunting you with piney forests, austere mountain lakes, fields of wildflowers, and random deer. The accompanying music is of the serene variety, usually reserved for acupuncturist offices. Speaking of needles, you got this milk carton from an addict. He drinks at least 3 milks with every meal, but has no teeth, so it's hard to tell if he's absorbing the calcium. In his honor, and the Red Woman's too, if you're being honest, you add a festive drop of blood just beneath the straddled legs of the K. You show it first to the friendly old man who almost killed his brother-in-law last week. You tell him, "Hey, look, it's milk for vampires." Then you turn to the bearded woman coloring a butterfly who recently mistook her chest for a knife block and say, "Got any Kotex? I think this K sprung a leak." On the screen, an unidentifiable farm animal grazes near the base of an oak tree. Behind it, gray mountains rise like the constant prayers of the pregnant sex worker sitting one table over. Nobody laughs. It's not that kind of joke. 4. Valium and Atarax. The Lord doesn't speak to you like he did to your cousin. Instead, you watch from the flooded floor of the shower room as the red woman slithers aboard the dark ship, the one that carried Tennyson's Good King Arthur away. She is a serpent with an apple in her belly, or maybe she is a ghost like the king. The king is still here somewhere, though poor Sir Bedivere has long since gone home to his grief. The red woman rocks with the ship, the night and the water indistinguishable from sleep. She once said she was heartless, so you lent her yours. She returned it, seemingly intact save for a single splinter, bright and growing like a winter's dawn. In the galley, the red woman taps her foot on a rotting floor, and somehow this translates as a pulse. She begins to dance a waltz, her bare blue feet finding every corner, brown toenails snapping off one by one, and your mind becomes the air in a car, speeding past a country graveyard, prickly and full of gasps. 5. Diagnosis and discharge. Praise the 3 wise doctors, for they have given it a name, and that name has been fruitful and multiplied. Now there's a word for the days you spent drifting in and out on the couch, binge watching BBC period dramas and forgetting to eat. A word for the first 2 weeks of every quarter in junior year when you never stopped. Best of all, a pair of words for the intolerable sharpness, the screaming thoughts and tapping fingers, the toe-stubbing agony of sitting through lecture classes. With this new vocabulary came little white pills, each one a pure and perfect prayer to stop the swinging. This is what they sent you home with. Your mother met you on the other side of the doors, and you let her hug you, let her see her youngest and most difficult child still intact. Your apartment looked like it did 5 days ago. True to their nature, the cats purred as they wound their steadfast and thready love around your feet. The nose ring they made you take out slid back in with minimal fuss. You took a long shower, conditioned your hair, put on nice deodorant. You'd missed yourself too much to put on clothes, so you crawled into bed naked. While you lay there, watching Girl Interrupted and realizing no one would believe any of this happened, Death and the Red Woman sat in your kitchen.